Friday edition of Newsline at noon. In the midst of all the political wrangling over putting the Prime Minister nominee's confirmation to a vote, the main opposition party proposes conducting a public opinion poll on the nominee's confirmation. Korea's nuclear watchdog again postpones the decision on whether to restart the nation's second oldest nuclear reactor or to shut it down forever. After all-night talks between the leaders of Germany, France, Ukraine, and Russia, there's now an agreement for a ceasefire to end the fighting in eastern Ukraine. These stories and more coming right up. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Newsline at noon. I'm Lee Ji-yoon in Seoul.
And I'm Abrim. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. We start with the political wrangling over the planned confirmation of Prime Minister nominee Lee Wang-gu. The two main parties had agreed on Thursday to postpone the plenary vote until next Monday, but the main opposition party, which has major objections to Lee becoming PM, now says it has another proposal.
Yes, and our National Assembly correspondent Park Ji-won has the story.
The new leader of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy Party has a fresh proposal regarding the confirmation of Prime Minister nominee Lee Wang-gu. Speaking at the party's Supreme Council meeting on Friday morning, Moon proposed the presidential office and ruling Saenuri Party conduct a public opinion poll on the nominee's confirmation, saying his party is ready to accept the result. The former presidential candidate added that his party is facing a difficult situation. He said the party doesn't want to cause a vacuum in state affairs, but stressed that given the allegations surrounding his past, the nominee does not have the qualifications to be prime minister. Moon urged the nominee to think deeply about what he can do to not burden the president, indicating he thinks the nominee should withdraw. In response, ruling Saenuri Party floor leader Yoo Seung-min said it was regrettable that the opposition party had changed its proposed plan overnight. Yoo reiterated that the rival parties had agreed Thursday to push the vote back until Monday and stressed that his party will go ahead with the vote on Monday as planned. The ruling Saenuri Party holds a majority in the assembly, and if it wanted to, it could go ahead with the vote on its own. However, experts say it's not likely, as the presidential office has already been criticized for its lack of communication and unwillingness to compromise, especially regarding personnel. The burden of pushing the confirmation through might be too heavy for the administration and could potentially cripple future assembly sessions. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, postponing the vote on the Prime Minister nominee would mean that President Park Geun-hye will have to wait until next week to carry out her cabinet reshuffle, which was originally expected to happen sometime this week. For more on what we can expect from this point on, here's our Choi Yoo-san.
On Thursday, the spokesperson at the presidential office of Cheongwade said President Park stands by the principle of carrying out the reshuffles after the Prime Minister nominee is approved and recommends her cabinet. The National Assembly Speaker has said the Parliament will vote on Prime Minister nominee Lee Wang-gu on Monday with or without the opposition party present. That means the president's shakeups are likely to occur the same day or the next. With her economic revitalization plan and reform drive in need of a boost and her approval ratings hitting an all-time low, the president is expected to waste no time appointing people to get state business on track. Reports of Korean ambassador to China Kwon Young-se's pending replacement Thursday roused speculation that Kwon, one of President Park's confidants, may be named the new presidential chief of staff. Current Chief of Staff Kim Ki-chun is widely speculated to step down after completing the reorganization of the presidential office. 2 to 3 cabinet ministers are likely to be replaced. A ruling party lawmaker close to the president, Yoo Ki-jun, is the highly anticipated candidate for Oceans Minister, while the Unification and Transport Ministers are other positions that could also be changed. President Park, who had named special advisors to bolster communication in running the country, is also set to announce a lineup of her political advisors. Choi Yoo-sun, Arirang News.
A Seoul court has sentenced the former vice president of Korean Air to 1 year in prison for violating aviation safety law by ordering a taxiing plane to return to the gate. Joyana, the eldest daughter of the airline's chairman, ordered a senior crew runway was not part of the flight path. The court, however, said the air path covers the entire course from departure to arrival, which includes the runway. Prosecutors had initially sought a 3-year prison term for Jo early this month. Korea has condemned a Japanese diplomat's comments claiming sovereignty over the Korea-controlled Dokdo Island in the East Sea. Seoul's foreign ministry says such claims are an act of historical regression and shows that Japan has not repented for its imperialistic past, including its colonization of Korea. This comes after Japanese Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida's speech in Parliament on Thursday, during which he said Dokdo is part of Japan's territory. Korea warned Japan to not counter efforts to bring peace, stability, and prosperity to Northeast Asia. It added that Seoul will firmly respond to Tokyo's claims to Dokdo, which is Korean territory by history, geography, and international law.
North Korea's ruling Communist Party has issued a resolution that states the country will focus on developing cutting-edge weaponry. Pyongyang's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Friday that the decision was reached during a meeting on Tuesday that was held to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the establishment of the Central Committee's Political Bureau of the Workers' Party. Attending the session, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said Pyongyang will prepare for modern warfare by developing high-precision, light, unmanned and intelligent weapon systems. The resolution also stated the importance of arming the people and fortifying the country to win a showdown with the United States. The North also declared it would launch an independent reunification campaign with South Korea and try to improve diplomatic ties with other nations. The United States has a new defense secretary after the Senate overwhelmingly approved Ashton Carter in a bipartisan 93-5 vote. Carter will most likely be sworn in early next week. He has a lot on his plate as he gears up to start his new role, with the United States facing numerous, highly complex national security challenges across the world, including the increasingly intense fight against the extremist group that calls itself Islamic State. Carter, an author and physicist, was Deputy Secretary of Defense between 2011 and 2013. The 60-year-old replaces Chuck Hagel, who stepped down after less than 2 years on the job. Now, Palestine will become an official member of the International Criminal Court on April 1st, seeking justice from last summer's 50-day violence in Gaza. Our Hang Sang-yi sat down with the Palestinian Foreign Minister, Riyad al-Maliki, for an exclusive interview on what the ICC membership means to Palestine.
We are seeking, partial, proportional kind of justice. Yes, we have suffered a lot since the Israeli occupation that have really started in 1967. And if justice and investigation by the ICC will also include what Palestinians have done in the latest Israeli aggression, well, we are ready to receive that investigation and also to respond to that investigation. We have nothing really to hide, and we are seeking, justice, even if that means we have to pay a certain price.
But the United States said it will cut off aid to Palestine if it joins ICC. Aren't you worried?
We are worried, absolutely. We are worried because we receive almost $450 million a year in terms of aid from United States to Palestinian economy and infrastructure. But unfortunately, the United States opposition to our accession is due to the fact that the United States believes that such accession might really undermine the image of the State of Israel. If Israel didn't do anything in violation of international law.
Between the leaders of Germany, France, Ukraine, and Russia, there is now an agreement for a ceasefire to end the fighting in eastern Ukraine. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
Peace talks aimed at ending the deadly fighting in eastern Ukraine have concluded with a breakthrough. A ceasefire is set to be implemented starting midnight on Friday 15th in parts of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The agreement was reached after a 16-hour talk between leaders of Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany.
It wasn't the very best night of my life, but the morning in my view was kind, because despite all of the difficulties in the process, we managed to agree on the main issues.
I can say that everything was difficult, and in fact various unacceptable conditions were put to us, conditions of retreat, of surrender.
The specifics will now need to be ironed out, but the deal also calls for Ukrainian forces and pro-Russian rebels to withdraw their heavy weapons from the front lines to create a buffer zone of 50 kilometers. It also calls for constitutional reform to grant eastern Ukraine more autonomy. Now the question is, will the ceasefire hold, as the summit talks came amid bloody clashes between the Ukrainian army and rebels? But if it does, it will bring an end to the 10-month conflict that has claimed more than 5,000 lives. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the European Union could impose further sanctions should the deal fail to be fully implemented. A ceasefire in September fell apart within days as both sides tried to expand their areas of control. The agreement came as the IMF announced a bailout program of $17.5 billion for Ukraine, which is part of an economic revitalization plan that aims to create a $40 billion lifeline for the war-torn country. The World Bank will also provide $2 billion of that package. 김민지, 아리랑 뉴스.